I see you, Maree. I'll bring you up right after the intro. That'll give people time to come in, and I can share it through the network. Todd Medina, SoulogyOneStudios, coming at you with a little bit of soul speak, compliments of Joey Badass. Yeah. Truth. I don't know what I'm doing. There's no plan. This shit is moving so fast. Like we're all babies again, learning at warp speed. But this time the universe is reciprocating. Oh yeah. Big time. Yeah. We're all the center of the universe, and that ain't no story sold in a good book. Nah, we are the good book. We are the science in the stars. The universe originates in the inner space beneath the construct of a mind. We, as the universe, lay down on us, threw down on us with purpose and meaning. I am soul. It's not a cliche, it's a fucking battle cry. Because it can help you find your ass in the deepest, darkest little deaths you could ever attract to yourself. And if you've thought about it and didn't want to think about it, you can bet it's coming. Oh hell yeah. This is the ascension. Where the walls come tumbling down or the ride can be a big soulgasm. Yeah. That's right, man. The choice is on us. This is the space we hold in the entirety of the universe. The only thing we can own is ourselves. So make it good, man. Bring it. Come on. Yeah. Every time, all the time, because the greatest truth is we were all right on time. Who's the only one could have really fooled you? Think about it. Give yourself some credit. Don't tell me you can't feel it. Don't tell me that. That sacred vibration, the one you seek, that sensuous love coming from the soul, we all been there, man. Just think of your highest pain. Those wholesale changes when life rearranges in the blink of a mind's eye. Because you remove the mind to find a higher mind. That's it, man. That's you. Hardcore living soul. That's right. Hardcore loving soul. That's right. Namaste. How's it going, everybody? We're live on Facebook. Let me just pull up our distinguished guest. Somebody said they're having a hard time keeping up with me today. Valerie Peterman. All right, we've got Maree Batchelor back. This is the third time she's come on. Beautiful lady, beloved sister from Australia. Let's see what's happening on the front line of the apocalypse down under. Here we go.
Hello there, Todd.
Hello, Maree. It's good to see your face.
Thank you very much. It's great to be here as usual, and I've just been smiling through your introduction, the video and the music. I just love what you say. I love the authenticity of it, and the message is what I'm all about. And it's always great to be here with you because I feel I connect with the similar understandings of what's going on here. So it's great.
Well, you're Australian and you're brunette, so that makes it easy for me. The Morgan. No, but it is good to see you today. The energy's been very vibrant, to say the least, by everybody's account. A lot of stuff been going on for the last week, and it's it's good. It's good to be able to sit down with you and get some reflections from you. So I'll just ask you in pure Soulogy style, what the hell is going on? It's been, well, I don't know. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Yeah, look, it's certainly interesting times. I'm experiencing incredible light, incredible support, and amazing things are unfolding for me. But the flip side is I'm also noticing, sabotage and, just landmines that you sort of can't discern, and then find this line, and then boom, something comes at you and really tries to sort of knock you off. But getting stronger through it, it's training, and this is how this is unfolding for us, and we're getting more information as this is occurring. So when I'm in this expanded light, this higher frequency embodiment, it's so palpable that the reality is different timelines, different dimensions. It's really opening up. But there is still this negativity, this control, this manipulation that is still trying to get at us, that are doing this work. And, we just have to keep these warrior attitudes and zip up our earth suits and really know we are okay, connect directly to our higher self, connect directly to source. And it's getting clearer and clearer to me that we, stop using intermediaries at all, get away from relying on ET groups that come in with messages, dear ones, it's nearly time, we're nearly, we're nearly there, and get on with it ourselves and not put it off for another time. Oh, okay, we'll just wait around to be rescued. It ain't going to happen like that.
It never fails. Your sister always seems to bring on the right person at the right time. And I could not agree with you more. I mean, frankly, I've never really resonated a whole lot with, and I'm not taking shots at anyone. I'm talking about energy, and we're all pulling down and sharing what resonates and what we're aligned with and what we want to share. I mean, this is part of it. But yeah, I'm a little bit tired of, people used to talk about the event all the time, and after all the predictions didn't come true. I don't see many people talking about it now, but these channelings and stuff, I think these to me are like the synchronicities, like the 1111s, the 5555s and all that stuff. But I'm with you. No one's going to come save us. No one's going to protect us. There is none of that even applies. It's up to us. And I think something's changed in the fact that we're being supported. We are being supported. And because we've been in these loops of, 2 steps up, 1 step back, we're kind of used to it. And we got to be careful. I'd love to get your thoughts on this, but I think it seems to me if I'm speaking to myself, to be careful about what thoughts I'm carrying forward, because they're actually a lot more powerful than they ever used to be. That's how I'm feeling it. What are your thoughts on the thoughts we're carrying forward and guarding our space?
Yeah, absolutely. And look, this is where I go back to my simple understanding of we have to drop self-concern. It is the self-concern that makes us ruminate out of the present moment. What's going to happen? When's it going to happen? Am I going to be okay? Is this going to unfold? Or projecting into the past with guilt and shame, and taking us down rabbit holes of denser energies that we really don't want to experience, opening us up to more manipulation. And this is where we have to get our willpower to really start noticing what are the thoughts that are, being parasitically activated within us to take us out of the present moment. The power is in the present moment, connecting up to who we are in this multidimensional reality, right up to source. To access that, we have to stay in this, more present, relaxed state, letting go of the micromanagement that's happening all the time from our mind that has been so heavily programmed with, culture, society, families, past life experiences that have energetically imprinted this anxiety in us, so that we are so easily taken out of the present moment. And I go back to Eckhart Tolle's teachings. He's absolutely right, the power of now. But what's been left out is, why can't we stay in this power of now? What is happening that is distracting us? And that's where we look at all of these things that are trying to take us out of the present moment. And even with this what I call this false ascension and this, you know, disclosure movement that keeps telling us it's going to happen. Hang on there, dear ones, we're going to save you. It's all going to happen. And we become complacent, and we really have to become warriors of our own well-being and get our willpower to really tell these thoughts to really, you know, leave us alone. They're not even ours.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm with you on that. And again, I'm not throwing rocks at anybody, but you know, if we've been subjected to programming by, let's just say, a group, you know, whatever, that had the secreted knowledge or secreted the real story, skills, and abilities, we've got plenty of evidence now to understand what's happened, or at least to get a feel for what's happened. You know, I mean, we are the prize. And the thing is, it's like, you know, it is taking some getting used to really come to terms with I am divinity. What does that mean in this incarnation? But I mean, everything, why would anything we're looking at, I mean, it's much more likely to be another program, no matter whose face is on the front end of it. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
So this is the same. Yeah. I totally resonate with what you're saying.
And unfortunately what can happen with this is that as these intermediaries and you know, almost like the false gods are stepping forward, they're giving us a little bit of light, giving us some hope. So we get this feeling of, oh, okay, it's okay. And we align with them out of this sort of feeling that it's going to be okay. But they're letting a little bit of light through, but somehow blocking what we should be receiving, which is absolutely, you know, fire hydrants of high frequency energy pouring through our bodies at all time. And we should be feeling peace, love, joy, well-being, you know, with self-healing and just this expansion for no reason, but we're existing here on the planet. And that is our sovereign right. And anything that's limiting that is trying to sabotage our ascension and take control. And so they know we're hungry. They know we're awakening and we want some answers and we want some connection. And so they step in and give us this sort of false sense of what's going on. And this is where we've got to be careful. We don't follow the Pied Piper off the path and actually keep doing the work for ourselves and really connecting up. And, you know, I've just come back from an extraordinary experience where I held an event in Korea. Now, this was just me for 6 days, morning, noon, and night, holding this event through a translator with 80 Koreans. Absolutely phenomenal. I did not plan a word. I did not have overheads. I did not work out what I was doing until I sat in the chair in front of these people and I connected up to source through my multidimensional self and just streamed through information and wisdom and assistance. And we did various meditations, we had dancing, we had all sorts of amazing things unfolded organically because, as I said, not a word of it was planned. And when I connected everybody up to the truth of who they are, their own higher self, connecting up to this source energy, the transformations were phenomenal and are ongoing. And I'm getting reports back from Korea that people's lives have changed significantly. Their relationships have changed. They've found that as they've embodied more light, the husband or the partner that they weren't getting along with has become a different person, because as they've embodied this light, they've stepped up into a different frequency field or a different timeline, and those around them can't. So they don't even have to do this direct work on a partner. It's just by them simply being in this higher light and giving that off in that environment and not running the reactive triggers and programs to create further ripples in their sort of karmic field. And it's really been sensational to watch. And, you know, I had people there that had been meditators for 30 years that had huge experiences and are so grateful to have been able to connect up and have, you know, these expansions of energies and, you know, kundalini activations, if you like, is a term that people have used, you know, from sitting you know, in these energies, in this collective group that was so tuned in and so open and receptive to my work. And I just loved it. And I was treated so well looked after by the event organizers, and just had such an amazing time with everybody there. So going back again in February to do more of the same. And I'm just thrilled about this connection that's unfolded for me in Korea, and the work that I get to do, you know, as a solo, you know, energy healer, practitioner, bringer of the light, to be there holding the event, just me, was absolutely fantastic. I felt just so privileged to be able to do that. Yeah. And it also gives me great, sorry, Todd, it also gives me great hope, because I was sort of downloaded with, I was going to do this sort of work in front of big groups. And of course, like everybody else, we have expectations of when things are going to happen. And I had to let go of that. And it was through the letting go and just going, okay, just find the joy and peace in exactly what I'm doing now. And then boom, the synchronicities unfolded, and I found myself on a plane to Korea, which was magical. I mean, that wasn't through me angsting, striving, trying to create it. It was handing over and trusting that my mission would unfold as it's needed to unfold. Just really rely on this higher self to actually bring that forward. So I say, you know, show me who I am, show me what I need, bring it forward. I'm willing to be on this mission. If you want me on the mission, let's go. And then hand it over, get on with my moment to moment living, and let the magic unfold. And it seriously does.
That's a great testimony. And I think that's a really, to go back and restate something for so many people, because God, there's so many things that you said. I want to just back up for a second. The first thing I want to say, and this is an extreme compliment, I had no idea that you're that bold that you would say some of the stuff that you just said in regard. But I want to clarify a little bit too, because I get what you're saying. You know, we all have that connection, and many people, and many more every day, are pulling it down, verbalizing it, or writing it down, or whatever, expressing it in some way. I've always believed in my own divine communion and the things that have happened to me in my life, and the things that I've shared. I've always understood that it's meant for me first. Like, so anything that I see anybody pulling down, I always look at them and say, yeah, that's for them first. Mm-hmm. Not in a bad way, but it applies to them, because the more we try to put it into linguistics or whatever, we lose. We know that. We know that the further we get away from that point, you know, it gets diluted. But the other thing that I find, and I find that a strong statement, and I agree with you, the essence of it being listen to yourself. You know, there's no difference from seeking. I mean, it's good to seek knowledge, but to seek the total answer, the way, or whatever, by anything external. Obviously, it doesn't matter what it is. We're still giving our power away. What I love about what you said too is that in spontaneous, intuitive, creative, imaginative space of being, you know, this is how you actually conducted this 6-day seminar. Was just, and to me, that carries, that is channeling and verbalizing all at one time. And I've watched it happen on this show so many times. That's the gold, man. That's just like the purest intel you can get. So
look, you know, I've even surprised myself. You know, before I left, I kept thinking I really must get some structure for what I'm doing for 6 days in a foreign country with non-English speaking audience. You know, I thought I really, you know, I should put some structure to this. But of course, it just never came. And I just went, okay, I have to trust this. Got on the plane, got into Korea and just went with it, got in the flow, and just was amazed by this incredible connection that was just downloading the information and you know, connecting dots for people. But, you know, my main work is to allow people to bring their higher selves in and clean off their earth costume, their mind body costume. So I'm using energies, I'm using my words to clear people. So a lot of the work was leading them through clearings and upgrades and activations, using their higher self and their energies and the support of our collective energies in the room. And you know, it was really amazing to see how people were transforming. I did 3 days, then we had 3 days off and we re-met again. So it was the same group of people. And even what people were expressing was happening to them within the 3 days between the events was, you know, just mind-boggling that this can go on. And it was interesting because as this information was flowing through me, which was me, of a higher dimensional self, my human was sort of out of the way. There was no fear, there was no anxiety, there was no questioning what I had to do. It just streamed through. And the interpreter, if she missed a line, which was very rare, but she was excellent, amazing soul sister that's just here to support my work and help me. And if I missed a line and she'd question, oh, what was that? The next line was streaming through and I had to sort of go, oh, you know, it's the gist of it was this, but it had really been just you know, it was all just coming through. And another interesting thing happened. It was seriously flawless most of the time, which just stunned me. This is not my human. You know, my human was seriously out of the way. But the thing that happened at one occasion, we were doing questions and answers and a hideous smell came in around me, a really awful smell. And I started to disconnect and I couldn't get this stream coming through. And I could smell this smell. And I was just saying to everybody, I'm going to have to stop. We're going to have to do a big clearing. There's reptilians or something have come in here. It was palpable. It was distorting my whole sort of download and connection. So I stopped the proceedings, did a massive clearing for 10 minutes and said, we do not consent. We will not be interfered with. We're sovereign beings. This is our cosmic right. You know, you have to go. And they left. And that was the only time there was any interference of anything. And it was palpable. I could smell it. Yeah, really interesting. So also confirming what goes on here. We send up our light, we connect up, but there are always these negative entities, beings, energies trying to sabotage and manipulate, and our discernment and awareness will actually pick that up very quickly and we can do something about it. The key is we can do something about it.
Exactly. We are all the power that we need. Exactly. I want to go back to what you said too, how this happened. You said that you had some, I guess, attachment or expectation or whatever to, you know, when's it going to happen? How's it going to happen? And all that stuff. Can you just kind of go back through that and take me through how you disengaged and detached and how quickly from there did the things start to manifest?
Yeah, well, I think with all of this, it's a divine timing. And I see that my path has been a path of training. You know, it's training me through my own experiences to bring in the understandings that I can then explain to other people to help them navigate their journey. So when I was in India 5 years ago, I get this massive zap on the head in the temple and I go into cosmic consciousness for sort of 18 months. I'm being rewired and deprogrammed. I lose my husband, my house, my kids for a while, my finances, my reputation, my medical, you know, career, and, you know, get on my journey as a warrior going, okay, it's all going to be okay. And I'm getting downloads that I've got a job to do, and it will be one-on-ones with people from all over the world. Well, that unfolded because of all my Skype sessions and things that I do, but that I would also be standing on stage in front of groups of people and helping them to become, you know, connected up and cleaned up and really getting, you know, this light in that we are supposed to have. And, you know, years went by and I'd get the odd event, the odd speaking event at various conferences in Australia, and, you know, things would unfold a little bit, but it was not getting traction. And I thought, well, maybe I got it wrong. Maybe I misheard. Maybe it's just the one-on-one. And I thought, and if that's the case, I'm surrendering. I'm surrendering to helping people in the way that I can now. Those that come to me for one-on-ones get my undivided attention, cleaning them up and really assisting them. And I just surrendered. If this is who I am, that's great. And remember that our well-being and our joy is not dependent on our external environment. So I learned that we could feel the expansion, the peace, love, and joy without waiting for our ducks to line up in a row, or for things to be a certain way. And that was very important, to actually get back and say, it's now that I can be this expansion and this joy. It's about me feeling my well-being at every moment of the journey, as opposed to putting it off. And it was through that process that I then went, and there's all these beings coming in telling everybody, just hold on, it's going to happen soon, or there's the Q movement, or there's the relying on, you know, public disclosure through government or whatever. And I just went, this is nonsense. Now we have to be this light, we have to connect. And it was through that process of letting go of expectations, letting go of what's going to happen, and becoming way more present, that then it started to unfold. The synchronicities started to unfold. We have to keep our frequencies up to allow these things to be set up. When we go into our self-concern and too much projection into time, the frequency gets lowered, the interference comes in, and that's when we get further sabotaged and blocked and taken off the path. You can always come back to it. It will always still unfold, but you're putting in, it takes longer, if you like. So it's that surrender, dropping expectations, connecting to your higher self, dropping the self-concern, and finding the joy and the expansion, no matter what you're up to. And as long as you've got your basic needs met, you know, some food, some energy, a roof over your head, some water, you know, some clean water, we're okay. And then take it from there.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And then okay, so there seems to be like in the old paradigm, you would plan, strategize, structure, kind of like you were planning on doing with your seminar. But in this new paradigm, there seems to be it's like I give that analogy of going down the grocery aisle with a grocery cart, and the stuff just comes off the shelves and starts flying into your cart.
Yeah.
You said something in the beginning of the show, and I like to go back to that, is essentially, how do we sustain? How, you know, we've all had glimpses. We've all had, you know, some recognition of it. How do we sustain that vibration?
Yeah,
How do we prolong these episodes?
Well, that is the trick. And that's what I'm saying. I'm getting more light and more connected, way more joy. But I noticed that what I call these landmines, where you can't even discern that you're about to get something sort of thrown at you to try and sort of pull you out of this state of peace. But as I'm going through the process, it's like a new level of the game almost. It's like, wow, okay, we're at this new level. It's like the lights ramped up, but the dark is really ramped up as well. And it is just going back to dropping self-concern. It's through our self-concern programs that we get taken down. So the minute you recognize that you're not in peace, love, and joy, saying to yourself, this is not me. My true self is expanded peace, love, joy, well-being, and self-healing. And anything that's not that is a contamination, whether it's a program or a device, a technology, or an external, you know, mind control weapon or whatever, or dream implantation, going to bed feeling great, waking up in the morning and feeling rotten and wondering why. And it's because you've had some virtual reality dream implantation and then mind wiping. All of these things can be put into the same category. This is all interference. And once you understand that, and who you truly are is peace, love, joy, and well-being. So anything that's not that peace is interference, and work out, you know, ways and methods to get rid of it. And for me now, it is just go away, you know, literally piss off to these thoughts or these emotions, because they're not me.
Yeah, I like that. I like the way you talk. And so to me, it sounds, well, I mean, what we're talking about here is, I don't know. Let me give a little backdrop. So one of the things I notice too, or feel, I guess, and this is just in my own universe and just the way I see things happening for me or whatever, the shadow work always is important. Don't get me wrong. I mean, there's always things we're discovering, however that works. But what I've noticed is that, in other words, it's less of the searching of the long searches and the deep searches of the shadows. Now, I'm sure there's exceptions, don't get me wrong, but a lot of this work's been done by a lot of people. So to me, it's almost shifted to like more of a maintenance, And what you're describing so well is that we have the support now and the awareness to be able to program ourselves at all times.
Absolutely.
Rather than go into an abyss and go searching for some deep answer like we had to before. But now it's more of a, hey, wait a minute, I have the power, I have the sovereignty, boom, I'm going to declare this, declare that, boom, it's done.
Yeah. Oh, look, absolutely. And you know, I think that shadow work, I think that shadow work has been important to a point, but I think we can also get distracted by it, you know, continually sort of searching out our past lives or searching out, you know, things that have happened and trying to, you know, get some sort of peace with that. Yes, that had a role. But what I'm finding is things will be reactivated and I'll go, hang on, I have dealt with this. This is not an ongoing issue for me. This is being, you know, provoked, teased, poked at, re-implanted, reactivated. It's nonsense. I don't actually care about that issue anymore. Yeah. This is not me. They are trying to make me think that there is still this ongoing issue. It doesn't exist. And by even recognizing that and cleaning it quickly and not spending all the time and energy distracted in going into past lives or going into, you know, situations. But that's where I'm at the moment. And I think lots of us are there. And I think, some shadow work occasionally when you feel hooked and it keeps coming up. But most of it now is seriously, piss off. This ain't me.
Yeah. Reprogram. Yeah. And do it. I mean, it sounds really simple because it really is. I mean, but you see people doing it in flashes everywhere. And we've all had that experience. Then the other part of it too is, so from what you're saying also, because I think you're a great example of, well, the micro, right? So we all have this innate understanding or knowing or whatever general idea, at least especially of what we should be doing. What is our mission? What is our purpose? What do we align with? Maybe that's a way to put it. And so we know that. So it's like that image or that place or whatever is held in our field.
Yeah.
It's held in our field, and so moving towards it isn't necessarily like law of attraction. Let me think of this. Let me think positively. I am this. I have that. Or, you know, it's more like the way to get there is what you're describing in terms of being conscious in every moment we can be, and reprogramming as we walk down the street. You know, as we're walking through this thing, just stay on top of that maintenance. You know, maintain and you know, and to your point, this prolongs the experience, and ultimately we get to a place where it's nonstop.
Yeah. And, you know, I call it spiritual hygiene. You know, I can clean somebody off of their nanotechnology and the black goo and the artificial intelligence that's invaded, or the genetic manipulation. I can clean people off and get their light to come in. But we need to practice spiritual hygiene. And this means constantly cleaning off, because we live in this dimension, this swamp, if you like, and it will constantly try and sort of splatter us. We need to keep this spiritual hygiene up. And so, you know, bringing in our light and just cleaning off on a regular basis is important. And by that, I simply mean just saying, you know, I'm a sovereign being. I'm not consenting to any technology, device, negative entity being controlling me. I do not consent to any vows, contracts, spells, curses, or black magic. No more trickery. And just some simple statements that actually state your sovereignty and realign you with who you really are. And of course, deep meditation will do that as well. So practice, you know, keep your practice up for spiritual hygiene, so that you don't get deprogrammed. or, you know, reprogrammed by the darker forces, and keeping good company, getting out in nature, and, you know, not spending prolonged amounts of times in shopping centers or, you know, nightclubs or whatever. You know, there are dark areas that you want to avoid. And, you know, if you need to keep up with some family members that aren't on the path, you dip in and out. You don't get too entangled in their chaos, their drama, their lower frequencies, and trying to, you know, so it's a sustaining and you know, a spiritual hygiene that we're practicing.
Yeah, and I think too, you know, so a lot more light has been cast on the type of work you do. And Morgan does energy work, you know, energy practitioners, and there's a lot of ways, as you know, I've discovered doing the show, there's a lot of different ways to maintain whatever you just said, you know, to keep it up, which includes, you know, talking. I mean, first of all, when you took your clients in Korea through to connect to their higher self, this requires a great tool that we have, maybe the greatest tool, our imagination. A consciously controlled imagination, or, you know, not one that's running wild or unconsciously running wild, creating what we don't want. So you have that ability, and some of the other ways to do it would be to work, you know, speak to your body, right? Different organs, chakras, visualizing, realignment, clearings, removing, whatever. We have the ability to certainly read ourselves. And that's another method. That's another way to maintain and to actually, I think this maintenance that we're talking about is actually, every time we dip into it, we're expanding the power of it. And when we're doing that within ourselves, like you found out in Korea, you're creating where two or more gather, you know, so that even becomes, you know, more powerful. More to pull from.
The more you do it, the easier it is to do. It becomes the new sort of path. You know, as I say to people, initially we're bush bashing. You know, we're going down this path and there's all sorts of things that are poking us in the eye and coming up around our ankles, but we get pretty savvy at it, and it becomes easier. And the more light you embody, the more light that you can access, and then it sort of exponentially takes off. And so, you know, this is why it is important to just, you know, one foot in front of the other, just keep doing the self clearing of the negativity that continues to come at you. And understanding this isn't, you know, like some of the new age teaching says, oh, well, we're all learning lessons here, and this is a, you know, this is a school, and you know, you've been bad in a past life and now you're making up for it. Really understanding what the game is here. That most of that is complete nonsense. We've been enslaved, we've been sabotaged and manipulated, we've been recycled, mind wiped. This isn't a school. So when we start getting clarity on what's going on here and understand the degree of interference and sabotage, not to become fear-based and crippled by it, but to actually get the knowledge to know then how to overcome it. And I think that's where we're all getting stronger. We're starting to see the misinformation for what it is and starting to really get truth coming through.
Well, then the individualization of it too, because, you know, something could be put before you and me, and you might see one thing and I might see another thing, but that, like you said earlier, is keeping our own counsel, to thine own self be true, listening to ourselves first and foremost. And that's something that you seem to see more of that this year. That's expanding. That self-empowerment's expanding. One of the things that I see too, that I experience, and that I see in others too, is, you know, we're changing in so many ways, and one of the ways we're changing, which is very human, is emotions. You know, they're like taking on a different turn or something. And, you know, some people use the term emotionless. You know, when I hit this point, it's like I didn't get phased. I had a dear friend transition a week ago. We all did. And I was a little bit, I wasn't concerned, but I noticed the fact that I didn't go into the human sadness thing. You know, I mean, I didn't, I got the news. I connected with her. I was like, okay, it's all good. And then I was like, wow, why aren't you, like, you know, just falling apart or whatever. Is that part of the process? I mean, in your opinion, I mean, is it part of the process? Is that that we're becoming?
Yeah, well, we're just getting less triggered and reactive to the external environment with a higher understanding. And we see death differently as, we know we're infinite beings of light. We know that that death is just a change of a costume. And so we understand more about the dynamics of what's going on. And so we're less reactive and less triggered. And but also just in things, and obviously though there are human emotions that do need to be acknowledged and understood and worked through when somebody very close to you dies, and you will have grief and human response to the loss of that physicality without a doubt, and that does need to be worked through. But we are getting just a depth of understanding of what's going on here, and we're not as traumatized, we're not as vulnerable. We've got a strength about us now, which makes these things, the ups and downs are softened. We're not as reactive and not as triggered. So that's showing us that we've got more light embodiment, more connection with the truth, more wisdom being downloaded, and more expansion into the piece of who we really are. So it's a good sign, a great sign. And it's like when you go to grasp something that was really bothering you, that you were really resenting in the past, and it's like you can't hold it anymore. It just doesn't have a form. It's melted. And that's such a good sign. It just shows that that we are embodying more light.
Yeah. Some of these things that are occurring make the human aspect feel a little uncomfortable. And I don't think it's because, at least for me, I don't think it's because, something's out of alignment. It's like I'm getting used to it. Like, okay, this is come again. So this is okay. It's like nothing to freak out about just because it's not what used to go on, So I noticed that. I'm very obviously very intrigued. The human is the hero. I'm very intrigued by the human aspects part in this. I understand Todd is part of a conglomerate. But he's front and center at the moment, and I know that whatever I do has ripples all through my collective body. However you want to refer to it. And so it's like, I don't know, the way I look at it, it's like, I want to get to that place where I can disengage from, the how, and I've made progress like a lot of people. How's it going to happen? When's it going to happen? And get to that place of surrender that you're describing. Because I know one thing, at least this is me, I'm not talking for anyone else. I know that whatever it is that's upon us, I can't even imagine. Like I could think of the greatest thing in the world and describe the perfect utopia, but I know whatever this is, probably based on the fact that we came from so far, such a deep abyss, that it's going to be something I can't even, we could put all of our minds together and not figure it out. We couldn't get our arms around it. There's no way.
Yeah, so we have to let go of that expectation of how something's going to unfold and what it's going to look like, and, get more joy in the wonder of things as they do unfold. I mean, my example just in my personal life is this understanding that I was going to do some work in front of big groups, and then just letting go of that. And then Korea. I mean, I hadn't even thought for a moment that I would be in Korea and connect with Korea. Like, that was just such a out there. So what my higher self has obviously been, sorting all of this out for me and making, connecting me up and getting the synchronicities to unfold so I get the invite to go there. But, it's opening to the unexpected in a really great magical way. And this will happen in a larger scale as well. It isn't going to be anything like we can wrap our heads around. It's going to be something, You know, that's not something that we've understood. And we notice that now. Look where we are now, sitting having this conversation, and the level of conversation and our understandings are completely different to what we thought 5 years ago. You know, we didn't have these clarity. So, you know, dropping the expectations, dropping the worry, and sitting in this understanding, it's all, you know, we are okay. We are supported in our, you know, from our higher selves and from this source, and something is changing, something big is happening, and, you know, hold on. And when we do get these things that trigger us, remember whatever's going on in that moment, this too shall pass. This too shall pass. So don't get too bogged down in the negativity that comes at you, because it will resolve itself. That's one thing that's absolutely for sure. Change is always inevitable.
Yeah, true. That's very true. It really is. And, you know, it's, I think it's the real simple things that to me are coming to the surface. So there's a lot of complications involved in all of our journeys, you know, everything from the traumas to the how-tos and, you know, everything. But it seems like it's becoming a very simple approach. That's why I like your approach of, hey, this is what I am. So no matter what is happening, I can go in to myself, as we all can do, and I can say, this is who I am. I am this, I am peace, I am love, I am bliss, I am this, and this. This is who I am. And that's something I was talking about on a couple of shows back, that over the last couple of days, well, this would have been yesterday and the day before, I kept getting this message, and it was that old adage of, if you say you can, if you say you can't, you're right. But there was an additional part that was, I was trying to figure out in my head, like, I know this is like profound, but I can't like pull the nugget out, which was, if you say you can, if you say you can't, you're right. And the universe will make sure of that. Will always make sure of that. So that was telling me that the message I got, really what it was telling me, in my opinion anyway, was what you're saying, was was not only to, not what you can't, but I mean, to speak as it's done, but not in the new age way, just to absolutely know it. You know, I can, this can happen, you know, I mean, and so, and that was the importance of the transmission. That was a personal transmission. It was just something, but that's kind of where it was going. It was like a programming thing, that it really works, and it's really that simple.
Yeah. So, you know, good news that we're getting reprogrammed by the assistance of our higher selves to this state of peace, love, and joy. When I say reprogram, program to connect to the truth, as opposed to these overlays trying to tell us that we're not this, that we're, we're not worthy, we're not good enough, we'll never get there, it's not going to happen, this is impossible, and so we're getting this light that's coming in and saying, no way, this is who we really are. We're magical. We are manifestors and creators. I mean, it is really incredible. When I was in Korea in this high frequency bubble that just existed for the whole time I was there, whether I was doing the event or on the days off, the manifestation was just unbelievable. When you're holding that frequency, I literally would think something, and it would appear. It was seriously just holding that frequency, being surrounded by these amazing people in these high frequencies, and seeing the magic was just so confirming for me that this is real. It is absolutely, I mean, there were times I had to say to myself, am I still on planet Earth? I was just going, this is just so different to the density that we have to wade through sometimes. Holding that frequency over a period of about 12 days, absolutely incredible. It's the fact that it's real. Once we get there and see it and feel it, we know it is real. The key is keeping it up, being consistent. When the shit hits the fan, just reminding yourself of the possibilities of who we really are, the magic, and create the ability to create this magic and abundance of good things for ourselves and others when we hold our light and no longer run the default programs.
Yeah. Yeah. And, you know, and that's another thing I try to remind myself I did this morning, which was after all this stuff, and I'm just speaking to myself, but I know people can relate because everybody has their own experience with the non-physical. And I look at if I look at all the things that have happened, say just in the last 8 years since I guess woke up, the divine episodes, the divine intervention, the sure tell signs. I mean, even like, you know, being in a relationship with a woman that was on the other side of the world, not having, you know, the means and all these things, right? And so I go into this place of, wow, I don't feel too good today, you know, that place, that confusion and all that other stuff. Yeah. And I go back to it and I think, oh, what you'd be, you know, I'm speaking to myself, you'd be a fool to give up now, for all this stuff to have been gifted to you. I mean, these miraculous episodes, you know, I mean, what was your attitude then? Your attitude was, I don't care if the whole world doesn't believe me. I know what happened, right? This is the kind of guidance that we get from that higher self that's coming into play more, I think. Which, you know.
Yeah. So using those moments where you know that you're in the magic, that you're in the flow, to remind you that that's who you really are. And when you're not in that, remember that this is a purposeful distraction, a sabotage and a manipulation by the agenda to try and, you know, thwart your ascension path.
Yeah.
And so, you know, just go, wow, observing, detaching, not taking it personally, looking at what's going on and knowing that this is the spiritual war. You know, this is what happens. Yeah. We're here, we're expanded, we're having all this joy, this light, and then boom, something will come. And in those moments, it's depleting. You're exhausted, your energy drains, you can barely function because they're really hammering. That is not you. Yeah. That is not you. You know, nothing changes in your environment. You've been feeling great, you know, and boom, you wake up feeling rotten. Come on. This is not you. This is coming at you to try and distract you, drain your energy, disconnect you, to get you to make choices that are not for your highest good, creating ripples and karma and reactivity. And that's where we've got to get clear. This is not us. This is being done to us. And our power to resist it is by not consenting and connecting up, observing and detaching, and get into the present moment as powerfully as you possibly can.
Yeah. Yeah. And I get this other thing coming in recently, which is, you know, I know, so you got feeling, you know, that higher sensitivity to feeling, you know, people talk about it different ways. And then you have, of course, the emotion, which is separate, right? And what I'm talking about anyway, it's separate. And then you have intention. All right. So I'm like going, okay, how many times have I walked outside on my journey and said, hey man, let's have a come to Jesus meeting. I need some money. I need a place to live. You need to give me some gas, you know, like, hey, I'm busting my ass here. We've all had this conversation.
Yeah.
And I noticed when I got very emotional, and sometimes it was tears and sometimes it was anger, you know, with all respect. Okay.
Yeah.
But I noticed that it always came through. Okay. Yeah. And I'm not saying other times it didn't, but I noticed that the prayer was always answered, so to speak. Yeah. But then it started to shift, and something inside of me said, you don't need to get that upset. You don't need to go that deep in the emotion part.
Yeah.
And another part of me said, but take that emotion and converge it with your feelings. My feelings is I want to serve, I want to expand, I want to provide a bigger platform, whatever it may be. And then marry that to your intentions. I'm not there yet, but I guess what I'm saying is, or asking you, are emotions part of the equation, or am I out in left field? Are the emotions a liability, or can they be an asset?
No, look, they can be an asset. They're a form of self-inquiry that we can do, where we go within ourselves and and acknowledge those emotions. You know, I'm angry, I'm pissed off, I'm feeling betrayed, I'm feeling let down, unsupported, and get that out, you know, really address it in that. And that will make you more present and clear it and create this alchemical process that you describe, where you actually use that as a fuel to actually dissolve these triggers and connect up even higher. And yes, then you are supported and the synchronicities come in. The worst thing we can do is deny these emotions and sort of whitewash over them, and then sort of make these, you know, what do we call them? Those, you know, the platitudes that we, or the things that people say, oh, I will create money and I will create magic, when you're still running deep within this anger, this resentment. That does need to be cleared, and that needs to be acknowledged. And then surrendering and dropping the self-concern after you've really felt deeply within, done some transmutating, connected up, become peaceful, and drop into that place of trust, and a reminder that you always do get out of it, that something will come. You know, and that, so I think they're very effective. I think they're effective to go deep within when you get that reactivity, not to project it outward on other people, not to make decisions from that state, not to send off an email or a text in that state, but actually go deep.
I've done that a few times. It's been a long time though.
Breathe and take the time to transmute it and use it as a fuel, and use it as a tool to dissolve old programming of fear and anxiety, and then get that state of peace before you take any action.
Well, and you know what? That's a very good point, and that's something I had to learn was to keep my mouth shut. Like if there's going to be a storm, I'm better off shutting my mouth. You know, whether there is or there's not, and because I can't. We were just talking about this on the previous show. I can't say anything to the, you know, alleged whatever that you know. I was using the example of somebody that spread some BS about me and Morgan and Soulogy, and you know, and I would pull this person up every day, and I'd say okay, and then I'd get to a point where I was seeing their divinity and their purity, and then I'd go on down my road. But a lot of this came because I went into a different method where I would usually, you know, say, hey man, what's up with you? I just stopped saying anything. And I'm noticing that it actually works. And I've seen 2 examples of that in the last 2 days. And I know I'm being shown that for a reason. So, you know, every now and then I get the urge, like, I'm going to call so-and-so up and I'm going to say, hey, you know what? I know what you did. You know, I'm not, you know, but I know I don't need to do that. I know I don't need to do that. So, you know, that's, I don't know.
We do learn that, you know, get out of the game, get out, you know, sit in the eye of the storm, not in the whole chaos of it. Give up the need to be understood. Give up the need to, you know, sort of protect yourself from that weight. Simply change your frequency. Turn your attention elsewhere. It dissolves. It's no longer in your field. It's no longer in your experience. And that's how we become the manifestors and creator of our reality, understanding that these people are also being activated by dark agendas, creating their thought processes, their beliefs, and they're so sure and they're so happy to project it all onto other people of, you know, all the negativity. And we have to actually get out of that. And so to turn away from that is really useful, not get in it. And, you know, I've experienced that myself. Basically being a keeper of the light, you know, bringing in this light, doing this work, no matter what it is, at this leading edge here, we are going to be attacked and sabotaged. That's part of the game. They want to try and bring us down. And we just get more and more clever of how to deal with it. But it's not through a rational thinking or understanding of, I'll be rational with this person and get them to clearly see. They cannot. They just cannot. They're being puppeteered by a dark agenda, and you can't have.
I think many of us had on hands experience. I want to hit a couple of issues. What you said, I don't want them to go by. Well, one of them is that, you know, many people in an empath narcissist relationship on the empath side. We've all been in those situations when you're dealing with somebody who's not rational.
Yeah.
And there's no way to be rational. So then we would go into trying to communicate their way, which was irrational, and then the whole thing blows up. Right?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think
that's.
Oh, sorry to interrupt again, but I think that when we actually understand that an unawakened person is actually, they're programmed. They're not going to have the same understandings and and way of perceiving things. And that's sort of helpful as well. We're becoming a different species, and accepting that. And I think at times that's been tough because we've wanted to be understood. We've wanted to help them. We've wanted validation for ourselves, but we've also wanted to assist other people, but we can't rescue them. We can't. So, it's like detach, let go, detach.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, energetically, it's a template or a pattern that's there, and it could be, in that what I described earlier. But there's also, we're made up of an infinite number of frequencies. I mean, there might be something that I'm totally locked out on that you get, and I can connect with you 99% of the time, and this 1% thing, it's just something we're not going to be able to solve at this moment until Todd sees the light or whatever needs to happen. The other thing I wanted to point out to people too is we have spent so much time in the shadow, and in all the programming and all that. I do really feel, and I don't like to create classes or any type of separation, but I honestly feel that there is a strong minority. I don't know how small that minority is that's out here doing the work and been doing the work and coming together and coagulating together and, coalescing, and we are gaining momentum very rapidly. And so I think that's part of it too. A lot of these folks that I'm referring to, yourself included, went through a lot of stuff, and they went through a lot of stuff to make it easier for other people. And this is part of what we volunteered to do. So, I keep saying this and start to sound like a broken record, but I think we need to pat ourselves on the back a little bit, because it's not spiritual bypassing to say, hey, attaboy, Todd. Hey, you know what? I did some things. I made some things happen. I think it's okay to go dip into the well every now and then and replenish yourself versus going always, into the old ways that served us, which was jumping into the abyss and saying, where the hell am I? What happened? What memory was that just came in? I didn't remember that. I blocked that out. It's good stuff. It's always good talking to you.
Well,
it's always good talking to you.
You touched, Todd, on the, it's self-love. It's self-love. You've got to actually also acknowledge, who you are and what you're doing, and actually say, wow, this is a worthy cause. This is here to assist humanity. And as you say, pat yourself on the back. You're doing a good job, and it's nice to have that self-acknowledgement and self-worth. And that gives you further sort of momentum, passion, protection, and all of it. So so back to drop self-concern, have some self-love, have know this too shall pass, stop projecting into time, and connect up with who you really are. It's it's happening. It is happening. I'm seeing it. I'm seeing it all the time.
It is happening. And it's happening because of people like you. And so thank you, as always, for thank you. I'm going to have to go to the well today. I don't feel too good, but that's all right. But, I think that's part of it. I think that's part of it for me is, I have people ask me, they'll say, how do you do these shows and take on these activations and energies and all the stuff you're exposed to? And you're going through what everybody else is going through, but and I don't really think about that too much, although sometimes it gets a little hairy every now and then. But what I do find is that, and Morgan's actually the one that pointed this out to me months ago, like, you know, you're in a funk, go grab the microphone, get in front of the camera. This is my meditation. So like today I didn't feel good, 4 shows, and but I was like, this is what I do. I'm gonna get up on the horse and start riding again, you know, because I can sit here and lick my wounds, or I can sit here and go to work, and, you know, and it just, to me, it works better. I don't know.
So do you
I'm just encouraging everybody.
Do you feel better at, you know, from doing the shows today? Does it help you transition through the density? Like, has it brought some light?
I think so, because well, yeah, it does. And I think the reason why is because, and I noticed this, this would have been like, you know, maybe 6 or 8 months ago. So we're at 1,500 shows now. So it was probably, you know, at 1,000 shows.
Wow.
I'm a slow learner. So what would happen is that I would be in a funk, which didn't happen often to me, but I'd be in a funk, and I'd get on and I'd start projecting. Or I would go into, you know, something. Morgan would point it out to me, and I'd be like, no, it wasn't, you know, and then of course 2-3 days go by and you're like, oh my God, you know.
Yeah.
But what I found, the way I got out of it was like I did this morning. You know, I got on this morning and I said, I'm not feeling good today. I didn't have a good night. And here I am. And I think and this is what I see in the show, not just with myself, the power of a human being, because that's as much a part of us as any part of our multidimensionality. In fact, it's probably the most important part right now. But the power of somebody being just raw and just themselves, and no matter what, whether they're on the highest of highs or the lowest of lows, you know, there's power in that. And I think that's what I get from talking to people like you, when they're so real, and it's not all the other stuff, although that's good too. But when they're real and they say, hey, you know what, I get triggered too, or whatever, you know, it does a lot for me. So that must be what's changed, at least in my life, is when I come on and just say, hey, I don't feel good, you know.
Yeah. So acknowledging that raw emotion and actually saying what's going on, or that feeling of feeling suppressed, and just acknowledging that, but disengaging from the story or the drama around it. And then, you know, that will help it transmute. But being real allows more light to come in, because you're aligning with the truth of what's actually going on in that moment, but without the drama, without the story, which distracts you and takes you further down into the density. So, And the other thing that I agree with wholeheartedly is this is an embodied job. We are not, you know, this is life embracing, not life denying. This is to get into these earth suits and get on with our missions. It's not to deny that. It's not about going off planet or going elsewhere. It is actually here now in this physicality. Yeah. That's why we're here.
Yeah, it really is. Yeah, absolutely it is. And one last thing. I heard the other day, I forget what it was. It may have been on a show. I don't listen to too many videos, but whatever it was a man, and he was talking about you're not your body. Right. So that night when I lay down and I went into, you know, the connecting, I was like, okay, so I'm not my body. Right. So I'm like, okay with that. I've been here before, and I'm over here. And then I got, but you are, your body is like a Merkaba. It is an energetic force. Yeah. And it kind of like confused me for a second. I thought, well, that's typical paradox, you know, typical.
Yeah.
And I went back into it. And kind of saw like my field. I could see it like changing, you know, like going to light body, like transforming or whatever. So yeah, I think I have a little bit different perspective now after that 3 or 4 nights ago in regard to my body. So maybe, I don't know what that's going to end up looking like. I might give up some bad habits or something. I don't know.
Well,
we'll just have to see how it goes.
Well, you know, getting into this physicality with as much light as possible from, you know, that higher dimension that we truly are, getting it in, expanding that light within this physicality, you know, addictions, all sorts of, you know, issues just melt, you know, they just go away. You don't address the thing directly, but just become a more, you know, high frequency, high vibe being. And things will start aligning. You don't have to strive and angst over anything. It's not a striving.
That's been a big one for me, you know, coming out of an alpha male corporate career, and all that, which the curse is this, you know, I succeeded, but you know, burdens are blessings, blessings are burdens, but that's been a big one. And I'm done very well with, you know, I'm no longer getting up and saying, I got to do this and I got to do that. And this isn't, you know, I'm not really doing that, but I'm not, I'm like in between. On the other side of it is that magic where everything flows and falls in your lap. And I've experienced some of that, but I'm somewhere in between, and and another thing to what you say, which I think is really important, at least it has been for me. And that is to say, I'm not okay. I'm not all right.
Well, we have to acknowledge that, and that, you know, we're not realized beings yet. The aim is, you know, embodiment and become a modern day realized being. Fantastic. But we're still in the training. We're still going through it. So, you know, compassion for yourself as well. And, you know, wow, Todd, you know, from my perspective, you're doing such a fantastic job. Beautiful for humanity to get everybody's information out there to really assist people, because the knowledge is really helpful for people. And because of the variety of people you have on and the work that you do, people are getting access to so many different variations of the same theme. Fantastic. So I certainly appreciate what you do, and I know many, many, many do. So good on you for you know, getting up on those days where you don't feel quite like doing it, and then pushing, you know, getting on with it, and allowing the light to come and support you. So I thank you for that. Beautiful.
Thank you, and thank you for coming on. It's always a breath of fresh air to talk to somebody who carries a lot of knowledge, you know, and sacred wisdom, but is also down to earth. And I feel I was going to say, I feel better. I feel like bawling my eyes out, but I feel better. And that's the way this trip works, isn't it?
Yeah. We'll bawl it out.
Our impression.
Cry and cry and cry. I mean, when I was in cosmic consciousness and you know, deprogramming from all of the, you know, things that I'd been subjected to over lifetimes, I was crying and crying, and I felt great, and then I'd be crying, and I had no story. I didn't know what was going on. And I noticed that in my event, people were crying and sobbing and just saying, I don't know what's going on. And then going, wow, I feel so much better. You know, the light would just come pouring.
Oh, I've done my share, believe me. Oh, believe me, I've done my share. Believe me, absolutely 100%. All right. And listen, you take care. I look forward to hopefully to collaborating with you again.
Fantastic. Well,
thank you again. The best always.
Thank you again for having me on. And you know, it's great, always great to talk to you, and fantastic. So thanks a lot.
All right.
See you. Big hug, darling. Bye. Thanks. Okay. Bye.